This episode of the Restoration Today podcast is brought to you by Cotality. Restoration moves fast, and so should your technology. Cotality Restoration brings job data, communication, documentation, and reporting together in one place. Less chaos, more control, better outcomes. Cotality Restoration. Elevate every job. Find out more at cotality.com. Hey Restorers, welcome to a fresh episode of the Restoration Today podcast. Today we are doing a year in review of the Restoration Industry Association. It is amazing to me how much the RIA has accomplished in the last few years, and this year alone seems like it really has kind of gotten even another kind of propeller forward, and there are a lot of new things happening, a lot of things that have been revamped. So we are going to be talking about advocacy efforts and education and a whole bunch of things that are happening. And so we have an amazing group here of RIA volunteers, board members, all of the things. We are joined by the RIA President, Jeff Moore. We have Vince Scarfo, Mark Davis, Marcie Richardson, and Davis Ness. They're all going to spend time talking about their areas of expertise within the RIA. So we are going to see how much we get through, and we are going to celebrate what has been an amazing year for RIA and also look ahead into 2026 and some of the amazing things that these board members and volunteers have been working toward and will be working toward. So first, I want to toss it over to Jeff, since he is the current president, to kind of give a quick recap of where things are. First, Jeff, introduce yourself if there are people new here, and then a quick overall, how are things going with RIA?
Yeah, so I'm Jeff Moore. I'm a second generation restorer. I work for the family business called ATI Restoration. I'm your president, and it's been a really exciting year. So we had our most attended event ever this past year. We're actually further ahead right now. Our event next year is like end of April, like the 28th to the 30th. We've got more people signed up now than we've ever had at this time. We've got an amazing slate of speakers and regional events. I mean, we're crushing it. Like, we've done 3 events this year, all sold out, all highly anticipated, incredible speakers. We had people flying from all states just to come to an event, in various different states. We launched our second cost of doing business survey. So for those of you that participated, we had between 100 and 200 people fill it out. It's like an 80-page thesis on what it should cost you to run your business. It's the only thing like that out there. If you hired a company like PricewaterhouseCoopers, you'd spend $1 million to get something like that. It's free to our members. We did launch our 3rd TPA scorecard. So it's kind of like Yelp for TPA. So if half of us play in TPAs, half of us don't. So if you want to figure out which one's good, which one's doing better, definitely take a look at the TPA scorecard. And I think one of the really exciting things we did recently is, in California, the insurance commissioner launched a task force, and we ended up partnering with CIRI, AIHA, and IICRC and RIA, and we partnered. There's some lobbyists and the insurance commissioner that wants to consider partial, like, anything with smoke damage is a total loss. And things in California tend to run throughout the rest of the country. And from the Palisades fire, they want to get to the points where if you have smoke damage in your house, not structural damage, just smoke, cleaners, things that we as restorers rely on every day, just regular in and out cleaning. They want to make those total loss, which means insurance gets jacked up. We have less work. And so I think that's something incredible that we've done to hopefully move the industry forward and stop legislature that, quite honestly, could crush our industry and increase our premiums to the roof. So really exciting stuff. Excited to be here. And thanks for all of my peers being on this call. And thanks for hosting us, Michelle.
Of course. I was thinking maybe the industry needs a few fewer acronyms during that. IICRC,
Oh,
CIRI, RIA.
I
Like, what is happening?
Too many.
Too
Yes.
many. Yes. Okay. So I think one of the hottest things that the RIA has been working on is the advocacy and government affairs area and the legislative task force, all of those things. So Mr. Scarfo, that is your area of expertise, sir. So I am excited to toss it over to you now to kind of talk about some of the big wins. Let's start with the big wins for 2025 and introduce yourself briefly as well.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. My name is Vince Scarfo. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of an independent restoration company, Clear Restoration and Pre-Disaster Consulting, out of the Annapolis, Maryland area. And I chair our legislative task force because in my background, I worked on Capitol Hill for a bunch of years for 3 Fortune 50 companies. The three things I would highlight that we had major wins in 2025 were: one, every 5 years, the Office of Management and Budget out of the White House hears petitions, applications for new North American Industry Classification System, the NASAC codes. And I'm thrilled to tell you that RIA's leadership took efforts in order to apply for a code this year. And why that's so important to us is today we're invisible. Legislators don't know who we are. Government agencies don't know who we are. There's no identification of who we are. And by us applying for this code and hopefully being awarded the code, it will give us legitimacy immediately. It will help legislators better identify who we are. It'll help federal agencies as they do procurement work look for us specifically. Today, we're lumped in with plumbers and painters and general contractors. Think about when a national emergency does happen. It may let us beyond the gates where today they stop us and don't let us in. So really thrilled about that application. Another major win we had this year was with the National Council of Insurance Legislators. Once a year, elected officials from each state that manage their insurance programs within those states, legislative work in those states, get together. We got invited to the table this year. We sat, I testified before the group. There is model legislation that's been on the books since 2015. It's called, what's it called? It's called the National Storm Chaser Protection Model Act. That they were really going after unscrupulous roofers originally when they put this act together. They readopted the act in 2020, and in 2024, they determined that they wanted to include waterproofers, tree trimmers, and restoration companies. By us having a seat at the table, explaining to them what we do, explaining that emergency service works gets started as soon as we show up. They were able to put into the Modeling Act draft notes that exempted us from all of that. So states adopt this legislation, and now we are exempt from that. We should be exempt from that as they consider it in each state. And then the last thing I would tell you that I'm really proud about what we did in 2025 was it was the first time we really began to engage lobbyists where we needed to. And we engaged them in the state of Georgia, Texas, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, and South Carolina to ensure that our restorers were protected in those states and the business that they do. So really happy with some of what we did in 2025. In 2026, the three areas I would tell you that I'm really excited about is first and foremost technology. The RIA leadership team and the RIA membership agreed to invest in two tools, one called Policy Notes, which gives us the ability of looking at all legislation across the country, and then two, a tool called Voter Voice that you all see much more activity from us in 2026 about that. That'll give us the ability of communicating directly with our RIA members and giving them easy access to provide information about what they're seeing in their local communities. The second program I'm most excited about that the board had approved and RIA membership asked us to do is a grassroots program. I think in all states, elected officials would much rather hear from constituents and folks that own businesses in those states versus hearing from lobbyists that are speaking on our behalf. In states like California, Texas, Florida, and New York next year, we will start a grassroots program where we'll ask restorers that are interested in speaking to elected officials, carry our message to them. So really happy about that. And then the last is we've begun in 2025 and we'll carry it forward in 2026 of building relationships with coalitions and other trade associations that align very well to our mission. Most of everyone that's listening to this podcast knows of IICRC and probably knows of ISSA, but groups like the National Council of Insurance Legislators and the National Association of Insurance Commissioners and the National Conference of State Legislators that we've never showed up at one of their meetings before. Our intent is to begin to go to those meetings and speak directly with the legislators that are enacting laws that may impact us and those that we serve. So that's it. I'm really excited about 2026, and thanks for having me.
That was a lot. Thank you so much, Vince. That was great. Mark, is there anything you want to add here, kind of on the legislative side, maybe with the a task force that you're working on? You're muted. Hold on, you're muted.
Yes, thanks, Michelle.
Yep.
Yes, we developed the Carrier Relations Task Force, and Jeff Moore and I co-chair it with really we've had this blessing of Mark Springer running it for the last year and really getting it off the ground. And the theory there was it wasn't necessarily legislative driven, as what Vince was just talking about. It was carrier relations driven. And instead of contacting carriers saying we'd like a better relationship, you know what we did? We said, wait a minute. What do we hear from carriers that would be something that would most likely be a welcome topic? And that is around code of ethics. And so that's when we decided to say, you know what, why don't we lead with the RIA code of ethics, but instead of us determining what is an ethical restorer, because it's been many years since this topic has even been, front and center, we've decided to put code of ethics front and center. And we've decided to reach out to a number of insurance carriers to see if they'd help us on a task force to develop, in essence, the definition of what defines an ethical restore. So we are in the process of doing that. And it won't just be defining an ethical restore, it will then be training related to that. So that in essence, RIA member firms will be able to certify on an annual basis they've completed the training and that they are an ethical firm. And again, if you think about that, we'll then talk about also, we don't want to be a government, we don't want to be policing restores. That isn't at all what we're thinking. We want to raise the standards, communicate what the expectation is to be an ethical restore, train throughout the RIA about what does it mean to be an ethical restore, and then work with our carrier partners to be able to say, look, we're in this together. We need to make sure that we do those things to first of all define, so it's awareness of the code of ethics throughout every organization, and then a drill down within the organization of a restore within RIA, and then train around it so that it isn't just a talking point. We don't want this, what is an ethical restore, to be a talking point. We want it to be a top priority and one that just becomes part of the RIA culture. And believe me, once we started this and Mark started talking to carriers and we started recruiting other people onto the task force, it has really gotten a lot of legs. So look for a lot more to come in 2026 in working on the what will be the newly developed RIA code of ethics and the true definition of what makes up, what is the definition of an ethical restore. Thank you.
Love it. Okay, anything else anybody wants to add on the legislative topic before we jump to the next one? No, everyone's good. Okay. All right. David Ness, it is your turn. So David with Jenkins is part of the education committee. And, again, there's been a lot of work going on. The NAICS codes are part of the equation of getting our trade recognized more officially kind of in the world. And then on David's side, there's been a lot of work in strengthening the profession of restoration and increasing education and all those things. So David, welcome. Go ahead and kind of introduce yourself and then share some of your highlights from the year.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. My name is David Ness. I'm with Jenkins Restorations and happy to be here representing the RIA. Since I'm up next, I did want to just say I'm pretty excited about what Mark and Jeff and Vince were all just talking about on the advocacy and carrier relations side of things. That's some big time work that they're doing this year and heading into 2026. I'm going to talk on Education Committee and AGA Academy Task Force. I'm the co-chair of the AGA Academy Task Force, and I was just going to cover a couple of tools and training and resources and things that have been created in 2025. I think Marcie's going to be talking about where we're headed in 2026. The big thing here is updating and redesigning the 2013 asbestos guide that will be launching early in 2026. It has a companion OSHA compliant 2-hour online course specific to the restoration industry. Something that we're very passionate about is keeping in mind the nuance and the differences that come with being in the restoration industry and being a restoration contractor. So we worked with experts in restoration, asbestos-related medical field, and looking at what happens with all the things associated with asbestos and the medical concerns with that. So there's an amazing panel working on it. I think they're working with a doctor on the panel from asbestos.com and the Mesothelioma Center. So exciting stuff coming in 2026 on the asbestos guide front. Some other things that we've been working on for training and resources for the industry, tips for homeowners after disaster. There's a lot to worry about if you're a homeowner, and we work with homeowners who have a lot of questions when a CAT event or a catastrophe event hits or disaster strikes. So tips for homeowners, assignment of benefits FAQ for contractors. Some stuff on how to avoid accidental adjusting when you're in the field. This is something that's really important, I think, to all of us, is knowing what to say, when to say it, what we're allowed to say, or what we even want to be saying from a legal perspective. And we want to avoid speaking on behalf of the insurance company, and certainly be speaking on behalf of our restoration companies. Restoration versus construction FAQ. AGA position statements in Spanish and French Canadian. I think that's pretty cool. We're branching out and got position statements translated into 2 new languages in 2025. Some estimating tips and tricks training videos. So we've created a couple of those just for general tips and tricks for using the different estimating platforms that we all use in this industry. And there's more coming for that. And just getting started on some documentation 101 stuff. So if you haven't checked out the RIA website, would encourage you to do so. A lot of or all of these resources are located on the website, and so check it out. Go look at the new member tools and share it with your teams.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, David. Okay, Marcie, quick introduce yourself first, and then looking ahead for education. What are we looking at for 2026?
Yeah, so my name is Marcie Richardson. I'm CEO of Guarantee Restoration. And just like we've talked about, one of the common threads, we're always excited to what's going ahead, but RIA never wants to be behind. And so a couple of things that what we're looking ahead for RIA is that we are adopting an ethical and responsible AI use policy. You know, AI is here and we recognize that it's powerful. It's not going to embrace innovation, but just like Mark was talking about the ethical restore, we want to make sure that AI is being used ethically, and we can have credibility in the AI that we use. So we're putting together a policy for ethical and responsible AI. Also, we are putting together another task force because with wanting to stay ahead and looking ahead, all the technologies. So we're putting a task force of emerging technologies looking to compare and align industry data where we're going and different standards. So there's more to come on that. And one of the things that I'm more proud of and most proud of is that we're launching the voice of the independent task force on restorers. Excuse me, little tongue twister on that one. And what this is, it's going to be a task force, a group of independent restorers, truly independent. So you're not associated with any other entity. It's a lot of the mom and pop. Guarantee Restoration is an independent restorer, and it's a task force to make sure that we do have a voice within RIA. We do have applications open right now, so if you're interested in wanting to be on this task force as an independent voice of the independent restorer, let us know. Like David said, look on the website. There are links for all of these things that we're working on right now.
That is really exciting. I think that's going to get a lot of legs on it. That's awesome. Okay. Anything anybody else wants to add into the education piece before we continue to move on to another area? No? Awesome. Okay. All right. Jeff, you are back up now to give us kind of a 2025 progress report overall for the RIA. Again, come a long way this year. So where are we at?
Yeah, so I mean, what an incredible power surge we had here in 2025, like memberships through the roof. We added over 542 members. That was as of last week. We now have membership in all 50 states. So we truly are the association for restorers, not only here in the US, but Canada and also in Australia. So we added 4 enterprise members, 360 fire and flood, Guardian, CRS, and renewal all joined. So thank you. We drive a lot of our funds from enterprise members. So that's really important for us. That allows Vince, and a lot of those budgetary for advocacy comes from those. We did add a few affinity programs. The affinity program, just high level, it's basically a discount program for restorers. It's our way to give you the buying power that, like, as a small independent restorer, you may not get. And so this year we added Lowe's and Magic Plan. We probably have 20 other partners. So I'd say this is probably the biggest miss for anyone who's in the RIA. Once you log into the site, you can figure out where your discounts are, but it's the quickest way to typically get 5% back off on something that you couldn't get on your own accord. And obviously, we're lumping in everyone together, everything from Sunbelt, who started the program, to Lowe's. I mean, those are providers that we all use in one way, shape, or form. Last year, we were up like 27% year over year in terms of convention. We're expecting even more this year. We did sell out. I've been told we're already sold out on the convention floor for Savannah in 2026. 2027, we're coming to you in Phoenix. 2028, we're coming to you in Orlando. And 2029, I think we're coming back to Phoenix. And so we are working hard to make sure that we've got it slated in the future. We've also got growth factored in. We don't want to get to the point to where we're here in December and sold out on the trade show floor. We want to have room for everyone to come to exhibit and have fun. It's just been an incredible year. And just want to remind everyone, if you're not signed up for convention, we only have limited hotel blocks. And anyone that's come to convention, there's nothing worse than going to a conference and not being in the hotel block and having to take a freaking Uber, even if it's a mile or mile and a half away. It's the inconvenience of not checking in with people at Starbucks in the morning, not running into people at the gym, not seeing them at the bar. It's a huge inconvenience, but we've only got a certain set aside for blocks. So, and you can't get your block hotel room until you register. So if you haven't registered, do it now, because it's a pain in the butt not to be there.
Get your hotel room. I tell people that every year, like, as soon as it opens, get registered and get your hotel room, because I am one of the people that has walked a few years because I waited even like 6 months out and they're gone. So get your hotel room. Get registered if you are not yet. Perfect. Okay. And so, all right, Mark, we're going to toss it back to you. Introduce yourself a little bit, because last time I just kind of tossed it to you and it was kind of in the middle of a section. So make sure to introduce yourself a little bit. And then let's take a look at 2026 for RIA.
Thank you, Michelle, and great update, Jeff. Yeah, the momentum that we have in the RIA is very encouraging, and especially if you think about it, we know that the industry overall property claims were down significantly in 2025, and we've all felt the pain. I haven't talked to any restorers that have been immune to the pain, whether they be independents, franchise, private equity owned. It's been across the board. And so for the RA to be as strong as it is and have such a strong year in membership growth and a sold out convention, already way ahead on sales for convention for next year, that's really meaningful, because everybody's tightening their belt. Okay, us included over here. So yes, I'm Mark Davis. I'm the co-owner of the Pure Clean franchise system with Frank Torrey, and we also own Signal Restoration. So I'm an independent restorer most of my career, and then also involved in a franchise system now for a decade. And I've also been private equity owned in my past. So in essence, I think I can think of sitting in the shoes of our restorers of almost every member category, because I was a very small independent and very proud of it, and still have an independent restoration company. And so for 2026, at least where I know I've benefited, and a lot of us have through the RIA, it's the people. Yes, the training is incredible. And what you learn from Jeff talks about the affinity partners. It isn't just to save money. Yes, that's great. And your RIA membership is more than paid for if you participate in our affinity programs. Joining RIA is free. Where you get the value is in the relationships. It's in the interpersonal communication. And so for 2026, we have more events planned for 2026 than any year before. And we highly encourage you, whether it be a regional event, bring some of those regional events are great. You can bring your team, you could bring your general manager, your head of your mitigation crew, or whatever it is, as you're developing leaders. early access to the RIA, which I know I had the benefit of, is a real benefit to up and coming leaders in restoration. But I'm happy to be hosting one also in at Puriclean headquarters in February, and also throughout the year. We have Tobin Restoration and Mooring Restoration hosting events at their facilities. So this allows for different parts of the country for restorers from those regions to come. And interestingly enough, when we host these, even like Jeff hosted one in, I think, Arizona last year, and the previous year we were in New Hampshire, people travel to these events even outside of their region. And why? Because of the content. We don't just meet to network. Yes, the networking to me is one of the most important, but we have great training and great curriculum and great input from our restorers. And that's really how we try to say that what is our role at RA? It's to listen to our restorers and listen to their heartbeat, so we can understand what restorers are thinking, the challenges, so that we can collectively, hopefully, better advance the interest of all restorers across the US, Canada, and Australia. And that's something that we take very seriously. It's really fun working on this board of highly talented people to do that. And we're looking forward to serving the Restoration Nation, if you will, for 2026 and beyond. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Yes, for anybody who has not been to a regional and is listening to this, I cannot recommend them enough. It is a great place to, yes, not just get to meet people, but the content is a little bit different than what you'd see at convention, and really dialed in for what's happening in the industry to make sure that it's current. And then you can have those conversations with other experts, other restorers right there. So a more intimate setting. And it's also a great way. I always recommend it to people who are maybe new to joining RIA, newer companies. That's a great way to get to know people.
Wouldn't miss convention. Like, I know it's a tight year, whenever we look at, okay, 2025 was tight, and can we afford it? That's one of those things where when you think about your business as owners, as restorers, you always have that daily kind of challenge when you're working in your business and then you're working on your business. But the way to really advance your company at whatever size is to always take a step back while you're in it and take a step back and work on it. And by coming to convention, that really helps you work on your business, because you're talking to other restorers that are facing your same challenges in their markets or in adjacent markets, and also just vendors. There are incredible opportunities. I know over the years at the RA, you'll hear about a new product or a new software or the training on it, and you've just advanced your cycle, if you will, your learning cycle to better your company. So again, I can't emphasize enough the early registration for convention, not just for the number of, because we had record attendance last year and we expect that again this year. It will sell out. The hotel block will sell out, and the early bird gets the worm. So we cannot encourage that enough. This is not a sales pitch of trying to get people to come. We already know people are coming. This is more of an encouragement to not get left out. As Jeff had mentioned earlier, it's great to be in the action, if you will, when you're in that group of hotels that are the designated ones. We also have open applications for the Pete Consigli Convention Scholarship, and that's available online. So if anybody would like to nominate people within their organizations, we certainly welcome those. And also sign up 3 or more for a group registration discount. I'm looking at this, and because there are still some early bird opportunities for people to do that. So I would look into that. And then for the Phoenix Award for innovation in restoration and innovation in construction. And those nominations. It's interesting because how else are we going to know about something just fantastic that's happened within the restoration community? And again, we reach out. This is not just for the US. Please, in Canada and in Australia, let us know about some, anything that any of our members believe would be worthy of a nomination for the Phoenix Award for both restoration and innovation in restoration and innovation in construction.
Yes.
And that's it for me. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Mark. Okay. I want to do kind of a quick round robin here before we wrap it up. You guys have done a great job getting through a lot of content in not that much time with this many people. So way to go. Okay. I want to do a quick round robin and ask all of you to share your favorite moment or your most proud moment from the RIA in 2025, or you can share your number one thing you're looking forward to in 2026. So either one thing from 2025 or most looking forward to in 2026. So Vince, I'm going to toss it to you first.
I think one, being at convention, I guess we've said that way too many times, but
Right.
just the outcry of people willing to help people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I know that's what we're in the business of doing anyway, but the way that everyone is willing to help one another is just flipping awesome, I think. That's my biggest takeaway.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, Marcie, how about you? Unmute. Unmute.
Sorry,
It's okay.
Zoom faux pas. So my biggest win that I think is from 2025 and that it's going to carry over into 2026 is the amount of new members that we've added. You know, 3 years ago as a board, we gave ourselves a quota of how many new members we wanted to get added, and we are hitting it, and we're so close to the goal that we set. And to everybody's point, you know, we are better together in a bigger group as an industry. And, you know, what I'm looking forward to in 2026 is what Vince is going to do in that advocacy front. So when I see we get, you know, 542 members and just the power behind each one, and then it's speaking to you, the restorer, that's what I'm most looking forward to in 2026 is the voice that we have together.
Awesome. Yes. Okay, David, how about you?
Well, agree with all these so far. The one I'm pretty excited about is carrier relations work that we're doing.
Mhm.
I get a lot of feedback from RIA members that they want us to be a little more engaged with the organizations that refer us work, or at least that we're interacting with. I mean, we're in an industry where we have so many stakeholders at play in the projects that we do. Obviously, our first customer is that property owner, and that's the most important person that we're serving on a project. But the work that we're doing with the carrier relations task force and working on the ethics stuff that I think Mark was talking about earlier, and also just communicating back and forth what's important to contractors with the carriers that we are meeting with, and hearing from them what's important to them. You know, I think, at least speaking for myself, I'm excited to continue to work towards positive partnerships with the various companies that we work with. So I'm excited about the work that's been done there, and also headed into 2026.
Okay. Thanks, David. Okay, Mark, your turn.
I'm going to kind of piggyback on David there. I'm excited about a lot of things. I mean, we have a lot of tailwinds, so there's a lot to be excited about. But for me personally, the positive response that the carriers have had as we reached out to them with the project of the code of ethics for restorers is very encouraging. One of my favorite quotes, I do say it often, but it happens to be true. And think of this as it relates to the topic of ethics and a code of ethics that becomes part of our ecosystem and just part of our overall daily culture as a restoration nation. And that is, a rising tide raises all ships. Another one of my favorite quotes is, what's counted counts. When we put ethics at the top, okay, and we're tracking it and we're counting it, and then we're driving it, and we're also training it, and we're defining it, and we're working with carriers in that same process, that rising tide will raise all ships. In that, in essence, as an overall industry, we will become more ethical. And then the theory there is that, because we get it, is that there are restorers, there are issues where that can give the insurance companies a reason not to trust a particular restorer. Well, that hurts all of us. That hurt. So we need to band together and say, we're not going to let those occasionally rogue few, we call them pirates and cowboys, affect our overall industry, which is full of wonderful ethical restorers. Well, we're going to define it. We're going to launch it. We're going to work with carriers. And it's not a project where it's like, okay, completed. No, it's just going to become part of our ecosystem, part of our culture. It's part of our lifeblood that we will continue to do every single year, refine it, define it, refine it, live it, breathe it. And overall, again, the most exciting thing with lots of things. And I'm excited to be part of the RIA team to help advance this for the industry.
Yes, absolutely. All right, Mr. President, your turn. Round us out here. Your favorite thing.
So, in hopes of not repeating myself, I'm going to go with technology. So, I love AI. I love the future of where we're heading. And so, I think it's really exciting. Obviously, we're putting some policies in place, but some of our enterprise members that have really big budgets and really smart people are out there working with service providers and trying to figure out what we can adopt and where we can invest for restorers. And your everyday restorer is not going to be able to go out there and develop an AI tool. They're going to have to be reliant on our vendors and our suppliers. But I think as an association, we've got some really smart people that are working on a pretty regular basis with some of the largest providers. And what can we do as the RIA to possibly bring in some AI to our membership? So I think that's really exciting and where we can go and where we can really innovate for your everyday restore.
Perfect.
Because
Okay.
honestly, the industry is getting hard and we've got to figure out a way to make it easier. And to the extent that we can do that, it's just going to get harder every year. We are maturing, which means we need to tighten those belts. And if we can use AI as a tool to help increase margins, reduce headcount, make things easier, that all allows us to be relevant in what could be a shrinking revenue stream of within the industry itself.
It has been an interesting 18 to 24 months here. So I guess we'll see what happens in 2026. Okay, everybody who's listening, thank you for joining in and listening into this. You can find out more about everything that we've talked about at restorationindustry.org. You can register for convention. You can find out about the committees. If you're interested in serving, you have questions, anything, you can reach out to anybody who's on this call. They will happily answer your questions, point you in the right direction if they don't know the answers, any of those things. CNR was honored this year to launch the Emerging Leaders Award, which will be coming back in 2026 in partnership with RIA. That's celebrating some young up-and-coming leaders in the industry. We had the opportunity to celebrate some really amazing up-and-coming leaders truly in 2025, and I know 2026 is going to be the same. So applications for that will be opening in early January. Be on the lookout for that. And then we'll be celebrating them at convention as well. So yet another reason to go to convention. There's no reason to miss it. So, all right, Vince, Jeff, Marcie, Mark, David, thank you so much for being here. Happy holidays. Thank you for all of the work that all of you do.
Thanks, Michelle. Great job.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
For more Restoration Today and the latest news, visit our website, cnrmagazine.com, and find the latest episodes of the Restoration Today podcast on your favorite podcasting platform.